Well, and US President Joe Biden has accused Russia of shamelessly violating the international order by invading Ukraine. This as Putin ordered Russia's first mobilization since World War II. Let's now listen into the details that Parmeshwar is getting for us.
Leave it to Vladimir Putin to rain on Joe Biden's parade of nations. Warning that Russia's imperial ambitions threaten the globe, the US president stood at the United Nations and denounced Moscow's efforts to erase Ukraine from the map just hours after Russian president announced an intent to dramatically escalate Europe's largest war in generations. Now, Biden addressed a sea of world leaders but blamed just one man, the Russian president, for the war that has rattled the world. The US president said Russia's war against Ukraine is a violation against UN Charter and pledged unending solidarity with Ukraine and urged other nations, friend or foe, to stand against Moscow. Biden said this war is about extinguishing Ukraine's right to exist as a state, plain and simple, and Ukraine's right to exist as a people. Adding, and I quote, "Whoever you are, wherever you live, whatever you believe, that should make your blood run cold." It is no surprise that the US president's speech to the United Nations General Assembly was always going to have Russia's war on Ukraine as its top focus. But the Russian president's announcement that he will escalate the war through new troop mobilizations and support for referenda leading to annexations of Ukrainian territory, all delivered alongside a barely veiled nuclear threat, seemed to have prompted some last-minute tweaks to the US president's address. Putin does seem rattled by Ukraine's recent gains on the battlefield. His announcement this week, especially that the line that he's not bluffing about using nuclear weapons, suggests he'd rather fight than back down. The Russian president committed to a partial military mobilization in a speech just yesterday, where he also threatened nuclear retaliation against the West. It was a sign of Putin's willingness to escalate the war in Ukraine, as Kyiv's successful counteroffensive in the Kharkiv region has recaptured territory and pushed back Russian front lines. Remember when Biden apparently unscripted called for Putin to be toppled? The US president back in March said, "For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power." But yesterday, standing before the world, Biden made no such statement. As far as China is concerned, though, the US leader didn't dwell too much on China and its increasingly powerful leader. In fact, compared to the sections on Russia or climate change, the direct references to Beijing were minimal. Still, Biden's words were just pointed enough to make clear that Russia or no Russia, he knows it is China that's the biggest long-term threat to American global dominance. Though the war has gone poorly for Putin, US officials believe the most perilous moments of the conflict is on the horizon, and the Western alliance's resolve will be tested by what looms as a cold, dark winter for Europe. With the continent cut off from Russia's energy supplies, its resolve tested by rising prices and plunging temperatures.
За 1160 лет мы твердо усвоили, что для России смертельно опасно даже на время ослабить свой суверенитет, отказаться от национальных интересов. В такие периоды под угрозой оказывалось само существование России. Больше от нас подобных ошибок не дождутся. Мы не поддадимся шантажу и запугиванию. И никогда не предадим, не утратим свой суверенитет, а укрепляя его, мы развиваем нашу страну.
Russia has shamelessly violated the core tenets of the United Nations Charter. No more important than the clear prohibition against countries taking the territory of their neighbor by force. Again, just today, President Putin has made overt nuclear threats against Europe and a reckless disregard for the responsibilities of the non-proliferation regime. Now, Russia's calling up more soldiers to join the fight, and the Kremlin is organizing a sham referenda to try to annex parts of Ukraine, an extremely significant violation of the UN Charter. This world should see these outrageous acts for what they are. Putin claims he had to act because Russia was threatened. But no one threatened Russia, and no one other than Russia sought conflict.